Hey everybody, Adam here. Hope everyone is doing well. So this is just going to be a really quick video talking about my favorite saw. I'm not even going to call this a review video because this is just a straight up recommendation. So about 10 months ago, I figured it was about time to change this blade right here. This is the DeWalt blade that came with my saw. And so I decided to get a couple of these El Diablo, or as I like to call it, the Devil's Blade. Picked up a pair of these on Amazon, again about 10 months ago. I decided to give it a shot because I read many positive reviews, and of those reviews, many of them said that this was the very best saw blade. It's the only saw blade they use anymore. And now, after something surprising happened the other day, which I'll tell you about in a second, I find myself in that same camp. So, of the two, I've only used this one right here. This one's still brand new. I cannot overemphasize how much I've used this blade. I use this blade to cut every piece of wood for that deck, all of that plywood, hundreds of studs. I mean, I've practically built an entire house with this one saw blade. And I've done a whole bunch of other projects with it that you can't see right around here. But yeah, I mean, I've really put this through a lot of work. Oh, also, by the way, if you want to watch me building this house, I have a series on this channel. It's called Building an Off-Grid House. I've done 7 episodes, and part 8 should hopefully come out sometime next month. But getting back to the saw blade, so even after all that time and all that work, I had no intentions of changing this blade anytime soon. I probably would have used it until the end of summer, but then something unexpected happened. I was over here ripping sheets of plywood, just cutting them lengthwise right down the middle, and that's 5/8 plywood, standard 8 feet in length, close to the ground. Not exactly the easiest cut to make with a cordless saw, so having a good saw with a good blade on it certainly helps. Anyway, I'm down on my hands and knees, crawling across the pile as I'm making my cut. And when I get to like the last 12 inches or so right there, I started to feel some resistance. And this is something that happens sometimes when you're cutting long sheets of thick plywood or you're cutting a board that's got knots in it. And usually whenever I hit a little bit of resistance, I just push my way through it, or maybe I'll pull the saw back a little bit and take another go at it. Either one of those techniques always seems to get the job done. So I feel the resistance, and I just start pushing. And I'm thinking, wow, this is a lot of resistance. This is more than what I'm used to, but whatever, screw it, I'm just going to push through it. That's exactly what I did. But it sounded weird. And right at the end of my cut, I was pelted in the face with a bunch of small rocks and dirt and dust. And so for a second I thought, geez, I guess I must have hit the ground. But then I realized, wait a second, my blade depth isn't set low enough for the blade to reach the ground. So then I thought, you know what, I probably accidentally cut through 2 sheets at the same time. Wouldn't be the first time I've done that. So I pulled the plywood off to the side to investigate what happened. And this is what I saw. There's a 1.5-inch concrete block right where I was cutting underneath the plywood. And so I simultaneously cut through 5/8 plywood and the concrete, and I finished the cut. Now what's really remarkable, I kept using the blade after that. Normally you would think that after doing something like that, your blade would be trashed, too dull to use anymore. You'd have to replace it. No, it was late in the day. I wanted to wrap up what I was doing. I just had a few more sheets of plywood to cut, so I just left the blade on there and cut them, and it worked. Oops. And then the next day, sorry, I just almost broke my neck. I gotta clean this place up. Then the next day, I came back out here and cut a few 2x3s with it. Now at that point, I could feel how dull it was getting. So today, I am going to change it because this is just getting silly now. And I've got a brand new one right here. But yeah, I kind of just wanted to see how far I could push that thing. Now I've thought this through, Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video, I don't work for Diablo. I'm not sponsored by them. Nobody has paid me to make this video or have these opinions. I will put a link to it down in the description. If you use my link to buy a set, I'll make like a 1 cent commission. But I'm not above collecting pennies, so thank you for doing that if you do that. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I think I was just about to say that, these blades, this is just a standard 24 tooth construction blade. It says right there, framing construction. It's only meant to cut lumber. It's not meant to cut anything else, not metal, not masonry, just wood. So it shouldn't do that. And now, geez, I lost my train of thought. I remember what I was about to say. I was going to say, I've thought this through a little bit, and you could say, well, that's not really a big deal. Any blade could do that. It's just because you have a really powerful saw. That's all. But no, it's the saw and the blade, because I'm not exactly new to this kind of stuff. I've made these mistakes in the past. I know there are a lot of blades I could put on this saw that would be absolutely trashed if I hit concrete with them, let alone if I pushed it through and actually cut into the concrete. And again, remember, this is already almost a year old and I've used it to make thousands of cuts. It should have been too dull by this point to cut that concrete. I should also mention that 2 weeks before that little accident, I was cutting some scrap boards on this table, and one of the 2x4s had a screw in it that I couldn't see because it was overdriven. And it cut right through the middle of the screw. And at first I didn't even think that I hit a screw. I thought I hit a knot, but then I saw some sparks and I think a piece of metal flew up in the air, and I realized, oh geez, I think I just went through a screw. And sure enough, I did. And I thought, man, I probably just ruined my saw blade. No, it was fine. It wasn't fazed by it at all. I also wanted to point out, at first glance, the DeWalt blade and this blade look identical, but they're not. There are differences between them, especially if you overlap them. You can see some of those differences. Point being, this is not just some white label product that anybody can slap their logo on. If you buy a blade that looks similar to it, but it's not a Diablo blade, it's not the same blade. Also, this is something I know some people might care about. Hold on 1 second, where did it go? Sorry, I was looking for something that I dropped. I've heard that these blades are made in Italy, but the sticker that I peeled off the back actually says made in the USA. Hopefully the camera's picking that up. I can't really tell because of the glare from the sun. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Maybe they used to make them in Italy, but now they make them in the USA, or maybe they produce the metal in Italy, but the final manufacturing takes place in the USA. Either way, if you're somebody that doesn't like buying things made in China, that might be one more reason that you want to give this blade a shot. To the best of my knowledge, most of the main competitors, if not all of them, manufacture their blades in China. Sorry for all the edits and my heavy breathing. It's over 100 degrees out here. My phone keeps overheating. I keep overheating. Anyway, I was just saying, they're making our blades in China, taking our good jobs. Sorry, I couldn't resist myself. By the way, I'll also put a link in the description for this saw. I've had it for, I think, just a little more than 2 years. I like it a lot. Highly recommend it. Back to the blades. So just a few more points and then I'll wrap this up. Might as well talk about price. So right now you can get a pair of these on Amazon for 24 bucks, so 12 bucks per blade. This one lasted me almost a year. This one will probably last me a year. So that breaks down to a cost of about $1 per month. I think that's well worth it. It's not the cheapest blade, but also not the most expensive. I also want to acknowledge that there are many metrics by which you can compare and rank saw blades. It's not just durability or where it's manufactured. Some blades cut faster, some are lighter, some don't get as hot, etc., etc. For me, I'm just looking for a workhorse. I don't care if there's a blade that can cut a 2x4 1 second faster or weighs 1 ounce less, therefore my saw is 1 ounce lighter. For me, this seems to be the best saw blade I've ever used. Well, this one more specifically. Same thing, obviously. See, it's the sun cooking my brain now. I gotta wrap this up.